Leora Raikin is the executive director of the David Lapkovsky Project. She co-developed an educational program to teach students about life in Eastern Europe before, during, and after the Holocaust, through the art of Lithuanian-Israeli artist David Lapkovsky. It was through art that David was able to heal himself from the horrors of the Holocaust.
My great uncle was David Lapkovsky. He grew up in Vilna, Lithuania, the epicenter of the Jewish world. It was known as the Jerusalem of the North, and he was literally born with a paintbrush in his hand. The year was 1940. War had already broken out, and he was forced to enlist in the Red Army. He enlisted in the Red Army, and in 1942, he gets accused of so-called anti-Soviet activity. And he gets sent to the Lubyanka jail in Moscow, and he's there for 10 months. And then he is sentenced to Siberia. David uses his artistic skills to actually become the prison tattoo artist for the different gangs that existed in the prisons during those times. David returned to Vilna, and with his paintbrush, he starts painting the Vilna that used to be, and then he also paints the Vilna that is now completely destroyed. He comes to Israel in 1958, 1959. He has his first art exhibition, and it's critically very, very highly acclaimed. But emotionally, in the 50s, the 60s, even the 70s, nobody wanted to talk about the Holocaust, let alone look at these images of Jews being sent to their deaths. And they didn't really want to look at this old world, this old Vilna. People wanted to move forward. They wanted to build a new society. And David and Rivka were so devastated by society's reaction. They decided that they didn't want to commercialize it. They didn't really want to part or sell it. And they hoped that one day a generation would come along that really would want to look and view the art and learn from the art.
I think this is one of the most unique stories that I've heard about the Holocaust or the World War II or anything. I've never seen anything like this, and I think it's amazing what he did, and I don't think he realized how much of an impact he's had on so many people's lives.
His art is a visual diary. It's the most intimate portrayal of not only what he experienced in prison in Siberia, in solitary confinement. The emotion is so raw and so naked and so real. And drawing this allowed him a sense of healing. And we know that art is just an incredibly therapeutic, cathartic means of delving deep into yourself, what happened, and being able to express it and let it go.
I went to a David Lapkovsky art exhibition last year, and I invited Leora to speak at my school because I thought that she was a dynamic presenter, and she thought I took initiative in this, so she made me an international ambassador for the David Lapkovsky Project. And my job is to basically spread the word about David Lapkovsky and his art.
We developed an educational program where we go into schools, we go into organizations, and we've had the pieces of art replicated onto canvases. And we share the canvases, and it's all set out around the classroom. And when students come into the classroom, we ask them to look at the art and to go to a piece that either they just like, or that resonates, or that speaks to them in some way.
Art isn't just paint on a canvas and you just look at it and you're like, wow, the artist is very talented. We really had a workshop that showed us how to look deeper into the meanings of the paintings and the emotions of, you have to feel something. You can't just see a painting, you have to feel it.
And the different groups start to form. And without any introduction or any background, we ask them to look at the piece of art. What are they seeing physically? What are they seeing emotionally? What do they think is going on in this picture? What do they think the artist is trying to tell us? And then we build on, this is the historical context, this is the personal context, this is what is going on.
When we first were told what we thought about the paintings, it took a little bit of time to verbalize exactly how we felt about the paintings, but when we actually sat down and discussed it all together, we realized that there's very prominent aspects in the painting that really catch your eye.
So after every workshop interactive experience with the student, it culminates in an exhibition to the larger community. So it's not just about doing a project-based program or multidisciplinary that includes the history and the art. It's also about exposing this to a larger audience where the students become the docents, and as docents, they educate their community, their peers, and their family.
So this painting is a symbol of the beginning to the end of the war. On the left-hand side, it is very light colors and the pupils are dilated to show hope and optimism. And on the right-hand side, it's very dull colors and it's almost like an aged woman because she's been through so much. And this is almost pessimism as she's in despair. If you look at the background throughout the painting is the same. It's all gray because although it's almost different people on showing different emotions, they've gone through the same thing, but they're dealing with it in different ways through hope and despair.
Another very prominent aspect were their hands. Everyone in the painting seems to be holding on to something, so either themselves or their children or their people beside them. And we thought that this could symbolize them holding on to like their very last bit of hope and holding on to whatever life they have left in them and thinking that we can get through this if we just are together and unite as one.
I love that question about Derech Eretz. The word Derech, journey, way, this really is, it's a personal journey, but it's a lot larger than that. Why am I doing it? I feel it's so important, one, to share David's art, but also to educate about our history as Jewish people, to educate this generation, the next generation about the Holocaust, about how we used to live, but also to do it in a very impactful and meaningful manner.